Hello, folks. Sessions 10 and 11. Here we go. After their level ups and 5 days in camp, our heroes are going to head out to this village. On the first day out of the village, they're ripping through the bush because they have a bunch of new heroes that are giving them a hand. I'm using the follower rules by Matthew Colville. Fantastic little extra rules, makes it much faster to have like a little extra friends that are still cool without having to track like 50 different health pools. So look those up, they're awesome. So we have in this new group, we have Sergeant Drebside. Now, Sergeant Drebside was the flamethrower guy from earlier on. He's with the group now. I really like playing him, and it made the most sense to because now Ritsu is a lieutenant. Then now they have to have a sergeant to kind of control the troops. So Drebside's with him. Also, a Quist. Quist is a archer, kind of a fighter archer kind of type. Morn, who's a tank kind of character. And they got their Allright and Slig. So Allright and Slig were the sappers from before. They're called Suhetch and Crawlish, but more or less that. They got big backpacks full of gear, and kind of as a group, you got Drebside, who's like the kind of intense. He talks a little like this because he smokes all the time. And he's just chain smoking constantly. You got Quist, who's a gentleman. He has a habit of kind of speaking his mind, maybe when he shouldn't. And he's got that very tall, kind of sleek archer look, long pointed goatee. Hey, so Morn is a bit of an older guy. Even though he's a bit of a tank, he's got a bad back and his shoulders are sore. It's just been a rough day for Morn, but he's positive for everybody else, but for himself, he's just he's had a bit rough. And you got Slig. Slig is got some problems. And you got Allright. Don't worry about it. It's alright. It's fine. So that's kind of the group. I know, creepies, but fine. So all these characters are trouncing through the bush now. So it's a big group of 9. Now, a group of 9 is a bit larger than you want for a stealth mission, but considering they're going into a really tough situation, I figured give them a few extra heroes, and that way if anybody dies or if I need to make a very dramatic point, I can throw one of them into the meat grinder and it's not the end of the world. So on the first day out, they're in the bush, and then they hear this rustling in the bushes, and once again they've come across this madman, this soldier number 173. Now you have to remember, our heroes are in the 4,000s for soldier numbers. So this guy's been here forever. And they find him, and he's like, oh, you guys must be the group. You guys must be doing something special. And right away, Drebside's like, this guy's got to go. Like, he knows too much already. We're on a secret mission. If this guy finds us out, we're dead. So they give the word, and Drebside burns this guy. And already, like, we're getting into what makes a soldiering campaign way better than a lot of other campaigns is because stuff like that actually has to be done. In a lot of campaigns, there's no hard moral decision other than, are we going to kill this shopkeeper to take his stuff? This is an actual, like, if this madman gets away, he could compromise our mission and we're screwed. And when we're going to walk right into a trap. So they take him out, and then they move on forward, and they find this large, dense bunch of trees. And they're like, what? Like, how do we even get through here? And they just can't. They're like pushing through. They're just pushing through this large, dense group of trees, and it takes them a really long time to get through there. And they actually have to camp there after a few hours of travel. It takes twice the amount of time to get through this dense group of trees, and to go around exposes their flanks and exposes them to what the enemy, or to the enemy and to enemy scouting. So they have to go through this kind of specific area. They get like halfway through, they camp for the night, and they're attacked by some like large carnivorous plants. It doesn't take them a ton of effort to take these guys out. They've got a big group. They've got really the action economy's on our side right now. And they just crush them. They take out these large plants, no problem. And the next morning, They're reasonably rested, and remember that still only counts as a short rest for my guys, and they're not going to have a long rest for a while once they actually start getting into this keep. So that's why they're trying to find a safe point on the road so that they can have a long rest. So they then find a group of slavers pulling two villagers. Now this was a really tough decision. They were like, should we free these villagers? Because we don't know them and we don't know what's going to happen, and we know the slavers are actually heading north towards the city that they were going to. Anybody who gets free out of this group is going to let our position away. Super tough decision. And actually, Ritsu, who's played by my wife, who's like the kindest, sweetest, bestest human being on planet Earth, says we can't afford to do it. We can't afford to free these people. And I was like, wow, that's a tough decision, right? Like, Tanya would free a fly on flypaper. Like, she's the kindest human being on planet Earth, but like just had to make this desperate decision for the sake of her troops and her army, which I was like, whoa, deep. So then, after that, they once again run into the forest spirit. Again, this forest spirit can't leave these guys alone. Remember, this is on a random chart, and when you roll 100, the forest spirit pops up. Now, this is the 4th time this forest spirit has popped up, and I've made a mistake. Okay, honestly, I've made a mistake. This guy is like a needy mom at this point, and the forest spirit offers them, "Hey, literally, I can teleport you like a day from your target, as opposed to you having to take like 7 days or whatever to get through the." I think it was like a 5-day travel cut down to like a day travel. And they're like, that's pretty good. So they take him up on his offer. They go through the tree, and like he uses the druidic spells. So they go through a tree. They pop out the other side, and all their steel armor burns them, because that's the thing with druids. In my opinion, druids should not carry weapons forged in steel. I just think it's a cool lore thing if like you have a group of people that cannot hold that, like a ferrous metals. So they have to get rid of all their gear. They store it with Harvey, and that's kind of where we ended that session. So moving on to session next. Bam. Next book. Shabam. So now it was an issue of getting into the actual town. Okay, so the town itself was a little bit out of their way, and they get into town finally after like a long road. Now, I'm not going to get into the details. More or less, a few more random encounters, I think. Now, you have to remember that I keep all this stuff together, and I consistently am losing it. So let's see if I can remember it. Yeah, apparently wasn't that important. So they go into the town, and they run into immediately. Now, remember, it's about midnight when they get into town. They run into two gentlemen immediately. They run into the kind of spiritual leader of the town and the actual leader of the town, like the physical leader of the town. So the spiritual leader is this, classical shamanistic kind of character, because that's how tribal leaders are. It's the way it is. And the other leader is this huge kind of like really, really tall warrior king that kind of takes care of this village. So kind of a warrior chief. Now the two of them tell them, hey, do you want to stay the night? What kind of stuff are you going to be up to? Sorry, just taking a look at something here. Cool beans. What kind of stuff do you want to do while you're in town? And they're like, well, I mean, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, even though it's like close to midnight, we were actually about to start doing some of our ceremonies. If you want to sit in, you're more than welcome. And of course, being D&D players, they're like, heck to the yes, we're not going to go to bed. We're going to party it up a little bit. So they go into town, and there's like all this drum music playing, and I put like kind of a didgeridoo drum mix on. So it was like really kind of like cool, like tribal feeling. And the group was really into it. I thought it was really fun. They danced the night away. So let's go through all the different characters here. So for one, Vorn, right away, this is our druid. He's like a bigger guy. He goes, gets a drink, and rolls like a 2 on his constitution save. He is hammered drunk. First drink. He's like 18, 19. He's like really young, and he's gone. He's already like, ah. right? And then I tell him to make a next Constitution save for like the next time he has a drink, and he's just again he's gone. So like he is now just plaster drunk, and so like I pretty much describe the rest of his night as going by in little blips of things he remembers as he's dancing around and he getting slapped on the back by people he can't like he can actually understand the language. A lot of the other ones can't, but yeah, so he's just like running around. So that was really funny. And then Yama, our rogue, hilariously rolls a natural 20 on their dancing check and just dances the night away with everybody, and everybody's like really impressed with their dancing. And Yama can hold their liquor because they're like not a frat boy, that's the wrong way to put it, but like they play sports. They're a sports star. People like that can hold their liquor. Trust me. So these people, like, they're dancing around, and and they start pouring this dust on themselves, not knowing that this dust is the previous day's combative leftovers. So more or less, this is the bodies of the dead warriors from before. So I just realized I missed a very large, important part, but we'll get there in a moment. I'll just jump back in time. I'll finish this night up, and then we'll figure it out in time. So then Ritsu goes to this party and drinks a little bit and is looking for stimulants of some kind, because that's what Ritsu's kind of into. Ritsu likes stims of various times and can't find anything that really floats their boat. So kind of sits back and relaxes and smokes a little bit with some of the other characters. They find the chief has a peace pipe, which they share with Ritsu and also Harvey. Harvey has one, and I describe it as you actually get a little glimpse of the future, something that could happen in the future, depending on what you do, which I think is kind of funky. Then Harvey and everybody is getting drunk off of what looks like a gigantic gourd that tastes like watermelon. It's filled with some other kind of liquid booze, which this group actually has made a still and can maintain this still that they've gotten from various travelers over the years. So I just felt it was kind of a fun little adventure portion. Now, sorry, I forgot a big chunk of something that happened the same day, but way earlier. So all my crew just gets out of the teleporting tree, and they have no gear, and they walk for a full day, and they're just about to be nightfall, and they run across a massive army. This is the Cerrado Abyss, the guys from the city. They're coming down into a big valley, and they more or less do this like, oh, no, I don't, like, the guys who were supposed to come and face us here aren't here. Haha, we're the best. And out of the trees come the Savak. Now, the Savak are a group that the Cerrado Abyss thinks that they're kind of in control of, but clearly are not. And the Savak jumps out of the trees with, like, and they see the Cerrado Abyss are almost the same tech level as, like, late Aztec. Like, late Aztec tech level. And, like, with some rifles, as a matter of fact. Like, they have some gear, some weaponry that's, like, been bought from the other groups that are trying to take over this island. And they get wiped by these Savak guys. Now, the Savak guys dive out of trees, and they've got... Savak literally translates to saw crawl, and they have, like, these punching daggers that are made of bone, and they're diving through these guys. Like, they grab into somebody, and they're, like, pulling themselves through the bodies of their enemies, and they're diving and swimming, almost, it looks like, through the lines of the enemy. And, like, they just wipe this whole group out, and our heroes steal the gear of the group, because everyone dies. Like, the Savak wipe them all out and then disappear back into the trees. Like, what was that? Holy krakens. Like, they just wiped out like probably 80, 90 guys. Like, an entire attack group gone. And they're just like, what happened? And they also saw the leader of the Cerrado Abyss, who teleported away. Aha! The leader has some kind of magic powers. And this is a good thing. You should always do this with your players. If you can, the more you can give secrets to what the leader does, the more interesting the fight is, because they know. Knowing is half the battle. The other half is red lasers and blue lasers. So, back to where we were. Our heroes are in this village. They sleep the night. Some of them have better mornings than others. And Vorn is crazy hungover because, of course, he is. He had a really rough night. So Vorn is like just puking up his guts, and our heroes have to leave and start trouncing through the jungle, which is always a pleasure when you're puking your guts up. And then we started. Hey folks, we're there. We are starting my first D&D module. I've run D&D for like 3 years now. Not a very long time, but I'm starting my first D&D module because I thought it'd be fun and kind of exciting to try a really old, crappy module. By crappy, I mean like it's a classic, but it's before the modules were as tailor-made as they are now. So I'm doing the classic 13th best in D&D history, apparently. I'm doing the classic Dwellers of the Forbidden City. And so session 1, they have to decide how to get in, and they take the secret path. So anybody who's played this campaign will tell you right away that's not the worst path to take, maybe not the best, but so they've taken the secret path because they got a glimpse that maybe climbing down the wall into the town was a sketchy thing to do. So here we are. So go into the secret path. There are crocodiles there. They don't know this. They kind of walk up, and they do some pretty good scouting, and they find the pool and the water on the way in, and they find some great statues of various things that they'll find on the way in. I know it's this is supposed to be one of those things where they're fighting a lot of snake people. I just replaced the snake people with members of the Cerrado Abyss. I'll give them very similar stat lines, so it's somewhat comparable. Also, this is a first edition module. We're playing 5th, so things are going to be weird. Deal with it. So they hop into a bunch of canoes, and they start paddling across a small section of... they find a cave. Cave, lichen, and vines. They go into the cave, and they find this pool of water that looks like they have to go across. And they find 3 canoes there already, and they're like, oh, that's weird. Why are there canoes here? They do some deduction. They realize probably the group of guys that were here walked into the magical trap set by the shaman of the previous village. So they probably had their canoes here and then never came back for them. They hop into these canoes and they paddle across this stretch of water. And as I said before, there be crocodiles. So the crocodiles rip these canoes apart with them inside. And there's a really fun battle where they're all struggling like crazy to fight these crocodiles. Now, fortunately, the effects of the previous not being able to hold steel thing has worn off, so they all are carrying their preferred gear, but it's a very tough fight, and the characters really struggle to take out all these crocodiles, and then yet they get to shore, and because they killed all the crocodiles, I had crocodiles trying to run away, but they killed them all, actually. A few little highlights. Morn falls into the water, and because he's full plate mail, he starts drowning, and they save him. That was cool. The giant crocodile gets flamethrowered by Drebside. That was cool. Harvey, again, just ripping things with his blasts. Just bam, 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 just shooting everything left and right. It was pretty dope. But play of the game, got to go to my wife, Ritsu. No, my wife, Tanya, playing Ritsu. You know what I mean. And they're having really bad dice rolls, and they just can't punch anything. They're like, I'm so frustrated, I can't hit anything. And, they're also punching down to water, which is a pain in the butt. So what they do is they tie a rope up, and they throw it, make a grapple check around the crocodile's mouth. And she asked beforehand, hey, crocodiles death roll, right? And I was like, yeah, they do. So after that, she jumps onto its back a little and starts rolling, and then it starts spinning, and she ties the crocodile up, cinches it, and the crocodile was restrained because she spent 2 turns tying it up, which was super cool. I never even thought of that, right? It was like, well, cool. I'm not sure if it would work in real life, but dope. I mean, why not? That's super cool. I mean, if Steve Irwin can do it, Ritsu can do it. So, super cool fight. Sorry, guys, we're near the end. Sorry, this is a long video, but here we are. So our heroes get across this water. They actually take the time and they scout out the bottom, and they do find all the gems and stuff there. And they're really excited about that. That's nice, a bit of a loot drop for them. And they finally get to They finally get to their kind of the end destination. They finally get to the ground there, and they get off their little boats and they see more canoes, and they're like, aha, clearly there's other people here. Drabside casts Pass Without a Trace. Everybody is now hidden, and they send 2 scouts out in front. First they send Yama to take a general look, and then they send Ritsu to kind of, because they find a group of werebears. Now, listen up here. In the original campaign, they are bugbears, but I don't have bugbears in my campaign. So what I did was I gave the same stats of bugbears to lesser werebears, because crawls can become were people. So I figured, hey, may as well just keep the same stat line and make them lesser. Like, just make them like not as powerful as a full grown. Like, they're just learning how to become bearish of werish. So they find these guys, and they actually walk up because they're wearing full Serrato Abyss gear, and you'll go, hey, hello. We're because they stole the outfits from the previous battle there. They walk up and they're like, hey, we're actually just got lost out in the woods, more or less. And we were a scouting party, and we just got back here, and we were able to kind of find our way through the magical traps, and we got here. And the group, they're kind of taken in. There's a few good rolls and a few bad rolls for deception, but not enough to tip anybody off. So they actually talked their way through it. It was kind of funky. But the leader, the sergeant of the group, isn't 100% convinced. He opens up the doors and lets them through, but he's not super convinced yet. So he sends one of his guys with him, and before the guy left, he gave them a secret message, which I will not be revealing here. But that's it for this session. Our heroes are entering into the secret caves to get into the city. They have passed a few combats. They ignored a few combats. And we'll see what happens next time. Thank you very much for watching. This has been me. Next time in Yule. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these, and I'll see you soon. Bye. And